like, do you have a few days of PD? Like, when do you get to officially kind of kick off your summers? Two more days? Next week. Okay. So you have like PD and, oh, some of you are finished. That's so exciting. You deserve it. You guys deserve the biggest break ever. Oh my goodness. Well, some of you, I see, okay, some of you have a little bit more time, but you deserve a break. So welcome. I'm going to just start in just a moment. If you are, I'm done. Oh my goodness, getting hours for next year. Wow. You guys are amazing. So we're going to start in just a moment. If you're just joining, please feel free to go ahead in the chat and share with me where you're like what you teach. Tell me a little bit about you. I'm just kind of moving some of my, here we go. I'm just moving my session to the other side. So I'll share my screen in just a moment. There we go. Wonderful. And I'm going to just share my screen so I can pull out the chat. You know how this goes. You got to get it all ready. So I actually work like I'm in the Matrix. My husband laughs because I have 2 extra screens that I bought. I mean, I bought it. I didn't even ask anyone to buy it. I was like, I am doing this. So I see you in one, all of you. I have the Brady Bunch here. And let me just get my chat going. So I'm so excited to have you here, and welcome to the Google/Adobe Infused Classroom. And today's session is really a focus on dynamic portfolios. So if you are here for portfolios, you are here for the right reasons. If you are looking for something else, I'm really okay. I have no, I don't take it personal whatsoever if you want to go to another session. But in today's session, we will be focusing on digital portfolios. And I'll be looking at it through the lens of teaching and learning, and how it kind of plays in workflow-wise through the Google ecosystem, but with a real strong emphasis looking at demonstrations of learning and how you can pull portfolios together using Adobe Spark. And so that's going to be my session today. And I will be sharing resources and strategies, and we'll have some time where I'm going to have you brainstorming. So it's a hands-on session where there's some breakout, not so much for breakout rooms, but at least some breakout where you're going to be working on some brainstorming and then kind of sharing back with the group. So I'm excited to have you here. And I wish it was in person. I truly do. I hate that I can't meet you, and hopefully I will be able to come in person next year and meet so many of you. But welcome and congratulations, because you've made it to this point in the year. So everything else is going to be easy. So I'll be your guide today, and I'm really excited to be here and to be able to share some of my ideas. So let me share a little bit about me. So my name is Tanya Averett. I'm having not the best hair day. It's a much better picture of me. So we'll stick with the picture. I work at Adobe as their education evangelist, which is literally the worst name for any job title I could ever imagine. I hate that title so much. Basically, my role at Adobe is to help schools and districts really understand how they can leverage our tools, but also more importantly, how they can encourage students to be creators of their learning. And so I do a lot of learning, I do a lot of professional development, a lot of strategy with districts. And internally, I am a huge #1 advocate internally at Adobe for schools and educators and students. And so I work with product teams to help them understand the realities of the classroom and to help envision tools and ways that schools and students might use our tools in the classroom. So I do some work on that end and also advocate for teachers in the company, and I advocate for creativity outside of the company. So that's kind of my role. I'm also an author. I am the co-author of the Google Infused Classroom. I don't know if anyone's ever read the book. Oh, I see some faces. That's cool. It's always kind of neat to have people that have seen your work. And so I work very closely with my partner in crime, Holly Clark, and she's been a friend and you know, partner for over a decade now. And so we authored that book in 2017, and who would have known that it would have come in so handy in the last year, but it has, I guess. And I'm also part of many awesome communities. I'm a Google Innovator, Apple Distinguished Educator, Education Leader for Adobe. So those communities are really my family, and I learned so much with them. So I'm so blessed to have them in my life over the last few years. But for today, we're going to be focused primarily on a few things. So our goals for this session really are looking at the Adobe and Google ecosystem, and you know, I'll kind of start with that and how it kind of plays together. I'm going to talk a little bit about the effective technology framework that I use as a foundation for every you know, approach that I take when I'm integrating technology. And it's actually the foundation of the Google Infused classroom. It's kind of what we frame a lot of the learning around in our book. And then I'm going to dive more specifically into portfolios. We're going to look at digital portfolios, and in just a moment, I seem to have lost my chat. I might like need some Zoom help here. I like, where did my chat go? I see you. I see my screen. Anyone? Maybe unmute yourself, because like I want to talk to you guys, but I can't figure out where I put my chat in Zoom right now. Has that ever happened to any of you guys? It has to have. It can't just be me.
If you scroll and your cursor, you'll get a little green thing that says view options, and you can kind of pull that down, and then you'll see it should give you your chat menu at the bottom. You should scroll, it'll light it up for you.
Really? Because right now, all it's showing me is just all of you guys, because I put you as like the Brady Bunch. And then it's not showing anything else. So I can see everybody here. I have thumbnails on the side, but it's okay. Let me try that. I'll scroll to the bottom because I really want to be able to communicate with you guys. And that's really not very helpful if I can't see any of you, or sorry, hear from any of you.
You might have us in full screen, and you have to exit full screen, and then the chat will pop up on the side.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay, let me do that super quick because I want to make sure I can, you know, talk to you guys and hear from you. So I'm going to just stop sharing for a second. Here it is. Ha. Okay, got it. Thank you. I feel better now. Wonderful. Okay, so and it's because I was sharing the screen, which is so bizarre to me. But speaker. There we go. And now I'm going to share my screen again. There we go. And then I think what you could do is more, it's funny how that works. And it's bizarre. I've never had, oh, here it is. Okay, I see you guys now. Got it. I think. All right, well, we'll figure that out. Okay. So we're going to be also looking at you know, ways to integrate digital portfolios across age groups and subjects, and how to set students up to create their own portfolios. So I'm actually going to just stop for a second, and because I can't see you guys and the chat, and I'll figure that out. But I wanted to ask you guys before I begin, what is your experience with digital portfolios? So if you can kind of share with me what your experience is in the chat. There's no wrong answers, not at all. But just to kind of give me, here we go, just to help me understand what your experience with portfolios is. All right, so I see a lot, not a lot. I see limited, new to it, basic. I usually have my students create a website. Fantastic. So my students love it. They are watching them grow. So some of you are using OneNote. That's wonderful. New to digital portfolios. So some of you have some basic knowledge. I've only ever done one with Google Docs. Help. Awesome. Okay, great. So we have a variety of I see. So we have a novice. Okay, so we have a variety of users, experience of using portfolios. I've only tried it to integrate with their own digital portfolio. Okay, so we have kind of a limited use of portfolios, and that's the cool thing about portfolios in general, is that portfolios really are not a one size fits all solution, and there's many ways that you can use portfolios and do portfolios. And I'm going to kind of go through, this is great because I'm going to go through the thinking behind portfolios, so like how you can think about the different types, because I'm going to address 3 kinds of portfolios. As I mentioned, process, showcase, and hybrid portfolios. And then I'm going to give you one way, a strategy, and some tools that you might use in the new year to help organize or help your students organize some of their work into portfolios. And as I said, it's not necessarily like one size fits all. There might be, you might decide you might want to use, one strategy or maybe another. So you'll decide what works best for your class and your students and where they are. So the session will basically run like this. I'm going to go through why portfolios and how to get started with Google and Adobe for the first about 20 minutes. Maybe even a little bit longer. And then, because we were now at 40. And then we're going to go into an introduction to tools, and I'm going to kind of walk you through some sample portfolios. And then we have a bit of a breakout session where I'm going to have you brainstorming some of the things that apply to your teaching and how that might look in a portfolio setting, like what you would have students creating. So I have a little breakout activity for you. And then we're going to have time to reflect and go over some resources and lesson ideas and some curriculum that I have curated that could help you getting started in the new school year. So that's what we're going to be doing for this session. All right, so I always begin with this framework when I'm working with any technology integration. Over the years, I have been implementing one-to-one programs for almost a decade. And through that learning journey as a coach, as a teacher, as someone who worked at the district kind of in the weeds of planning, one of the things that really had popped up over and over again were a lot of the same strategies and I guess like foundational understandings about when we saw these tools being used in a really powerful way. And so over the years, this is the framework that has really become part of my, everything that I do when I'm talking to teachers about this. And so basically it's these 3 things that we see happening when technology is used in a meaningful way. One is that it helps students make their thinking visible. And I think that this is one of the most powerful things we can ask from our students with technology is to press record, right? We have all these tools, but if students are able to press record and articulate their understanding, that is really, really powerful for us to gain rich insight into where they are in their learning process. And it's one of the things that is really difficult to do without technology. It's one of the things that really technology becomes like kind of great equalizer. So, Adobe and Adobe Spark are great tools. One of the things that you can do in Adobe is create videos, and they work on Chromebooks. So students are able to curate or create artifacts, demonstrations of learning, and be able to press record and talk through their thinking. This is really powerful. There's other tools that you can use too, right? There's Flipgrid, which you can quickly record responses. There's tools like Seesaw that allow students to press record. There's a lot of variety of tools that you might have heard of, but these are really powerful ways for kids to show what they know. Even having students take a picture of something that they're working on, even if it's a worksheet, and they're able to explain their responses, that gives you so much richer insight about where they are in their thinking journey. So this is one of the most powerful things that you can have students do, is press record and make their thinking visible. Also, when you pair that with visible thinking routines, if you've ever seen any of like Harvard Project X, they have thinking routines like I used to think, now I think, see, think, wonder, headlines. Anytime we can pair routines for thinking and have students press record, that's also incredibly powerful. So that's really effective. The other thing that we noticed over the years is that when we're using technology, one of the things that it allows our students to do, it is allows us to hear from every learner. And that becomes that great equalizer in our class. And we've seen that in the last year, that if anything comes out of this last year around how we're using technology, the hope is that one of the things that we can do is hear from our learners in a different way. And so just by using chat, asking questions, gaining some insight in terms of being able to hear from everyone, that's really powerful. So it's not just the first 2 or 3 students who are developmentally more mature, or whose English is a first language, that are raising their hand first, that we're hearing from in a class. So that's another really powerful use of these tools. I also like to flip my assessments and have students come in and create something first, so I can check for understanding and see where my learners are. So just by having kids create as a starting point, it's really powerful to be able to gain rich insight in terms of where they are and hear from them as learners. And then finally, one of the most powerful things that I see happening when technology is used really in a meaningful way is it allows students to share their work. And hopefully they're sharing their work with not just you, not just in a Google Classroom or in an LMS if you're using Canvas. I think you guys use Canvas at Klein, am I right? No, it's Classroom, right? No, is it Schoology? What do you guys use? Schoology. I knew I was onto something. It was one of those. I work in a lot of districts. But not just to be able to turn it in just so that you see, but so that students understand that their work has meaning and has an audience. And that's where portfolios are really powerful, because when you have students creating their work, their creations, and they're able to showcase their work, and there's built-in time for feedback from each other, and that's part of a strategy that is used in the class, that's really powerful, because adults need to learn how to take constructive feedback, right? And how to provide constructive feedback. And that's a skill that I think often gets overlooked. We don't spend a lot of time, often our work is so high stakes that it feels uncomfortable to share because we're worried that we're going to be judged, especially middle schoolers, right? You see that a lot with kids who, they think that it's so personal, and providing structures, but the truth is a lot of kids aren't taught how to give constructive feedback and what is good feedback versus just saying that, or picking on the work. And so those are skills that can be taught in an environment that really encourages sharing outside of the four wall, the virtual wall of teacher student. So those are some of the things that I think are really powerful. And I think that when we're using tools in an infused classroom, these are the things that we can really start to see, our students do better and better. I'm going to guess that you're here in this session because you've had this crazy year, and you've probably experimented a ton this year, more than ever. I mean, I know that this has not been a normal year for anybody. And the idea is that maybe for next year, you're starting to think about, well, what could I have done differently? What might I do? What might I stop doing next year? What might I begin doing next year? And so I'm hoping that you'll come through this session thinking about some strategies and new strategies that maybe you might decide are worth trying in the new school year for students. But one of the things that I like this graphic a lot, because when we think about portfolios and we think about like ecosystems of where we're having students pull their work, Spark is a really great space for that. And it really helps students' work look beautiful. And I think there's something to be said about having students' work shine and look beautiful. And so if we're working on, with other tools, it integrates really nicely. If we're working in a Google ecosystem where students are collaborating perhaps and brainstorming and sharing their thoughts in a slide deck, that, elements of that could, I always say, like, taking a screenshot, doing a video screencast of students' work, having them talk through something that they've been working on. All of those pieces are really rich pieces of information about where they are, those reflective pieces. And so taking a picture of something that's analog that they're working on in class, as it's happening, documenting that growth is part of the learning journey. And it's really exciting to see students' work unfold and have them talk about their process. That's really powerful learning. And I'm going to show some great examples of that in the session today. But that's really where that kind of ecosystem of, like, it's not this or that, it's how do these tools work together in this kind of infused way so that ultimately you're able to see the big picture of their learning. So then why portfolios, right? Well, first of all, a digital portfolio, right? And portfolios, by the way, have been around for ages. I mean, like, you probably were learning about them when you were in teachers college back in the day. Like, this is not new. But what's nice about a digital portfolio is that it's really rich in the sense that, like, as I mentioned before, it helps students make their thinking visible. You can have students document and see over time a lot of that growth that in the past we wouldn't have seen those revisions in the same way. You could have students be able to explain themselves a lot richer. And so they provide that rich information about personal learning and growth. They help students curate learning artifacts and learn how to curate, learn how to call those pieces the ones that they really want to show their learning goals. Right? It gives a lot more autonomy to a learner to say, these are the big things that I know I need to learn on, like that I need to learn on, that I'm learning, right? Like, if a student can't articulate what they're learning, then what are we doing with them, right? Like, if they don't know that they're supposed to be doing X, Y, Z, they're just going through the motion. But it allows them to have some ownership over that process, to understand explicitly, these are my goals, and to be able to show this is how I got there. And that's why there's no one size fits all for a portfolio, because for some learners, their goals might look very different than some of the other learners in your class, depending on where they are in their learning journey. So it's very exciting to kind of see that process unfolds. And then it also encourages students to reflect and think critically about their learning process and growth. So it really is forcing them to step back and to be able to explain their thinking and think about their thinking. That process of metacognition, as we know, is one of the most powerful ways that we learn, when we're thinking about the way we think and the way we learn. So it's a really powerful tool for learning. I love this quote, and who doesn't love John Dewey? I mean, I was like, he's one of my favorite philosophers, right? But the idea that we do not learn from experience, we learn from reflecting on experience. And that's so true, right? We can go through any experience, but if we're not thinking about what worked, what didn't work, then we're not necessarily making that growth. And that so speaks to me as an educator, because I think that that's so, that is such a basis of so much of what we do with our students. All right, so as I mentioned earlier, there are essentially 3 types of portfolios. I mean, there's different frameworks, there's different places that you're going to learn about, these different types of portfolios, but I really stick around these 3 types because I think it really simplifies the way that we approach portfolios with our learners. One is showcase portfolios. And those kinds of portfolios you might see often. Those are the ones where it's like a gallery. It's where students just, well, and actually I'm gonna go through it a little deeper, but it basically shows the final outcome of a learning experience. A process portfolio is just that. It helps students show their process and be able to document the process of their learning. And then a hybrid portfolio is a combination of the two. It's my favorite. It's when students have the ability to share the process, to be able to receive feedback, to be able to build on that feedback, and then ultimately show where they went. So it's a really good like combination of all those pieces that we want to see in their learning. So a showcase portfolio ultimately includes their final work, what they created. It's very beautiful. You know, you'll see a lot of that in, you know, a portfolio for an art. That's a very, you know, typical way that you see those portfolios being used is like an art portfolio. You take out all those pieces and you look at the final work. But we all know that there's been blood, sweat, and tears that's gone into getting to a place where your work looks beautiful. And so this kind of portfolio is evaluated against the standards. So you're looking at your curriculum, you're looking at the end goal, and you're evaluating it at the end, right? And it's ultimately used as a summative assessment piece, right? They turn in and they showcase, and it's the final grade. A process portfolio, it will include is an explanation of the learning objective, how they started, what they did during the process, the feedback they received, and the revisions they made. This is powerful learning, right? And they are able to do that, to be able to not only take feedback, but do something with it, and then be able to articulate how that helped them learn. That's some of the most powerful learning that you'll see in a classroom, right? And so that's what it really encourages, is that process to really be explicitly documented and shared, so that they're kind of responsible for showing their learning and their growth and how they got from point A to point B. So it shows how the student learned, the changes that they made as a result of feedback. And in this case, it might be used for both an assessment for learning, right? Formative piece. So where you're checking in, seeing where they are. And it can also be used as a summative assessment to show that growth over time, right? And then this is where like the magic happens in my mind, right? Is that hybrid portfolio. So it's an explanation of the learning objective. It shows how they started, what they did during the process, the feedback they received, the revisions they made, their final work, and reflection of the experience. So it's a real combination of all pieces coming together. And yeah, and we're gonna look at that in just a second. All right. So this is the create portion. I always kind of break my sessions into define, create, reflect. Are you guys, have you ever used a HyperDoc? Any of you? Just kind of curious. It's a total side note, but just like, yeah. So, you know, this is kind of where things embed. If you've used HyperDocs and you're familiar with like the 5 E's, you know, engage, explore, explain, apply, reflect. That's just good teaching, right? And, you know, those pieces are embedded in there. When you're working with portfolios, there's pieces that I would embed in my HyperDoc that would say, okay, you're going to record, you know, as part of the, you know, apply piece. You know, you're going to do X, Y, Z. We're going to pull in pieces into your learning journal. And so I would have them explicitly in a HyperDoc, like written in there, like time to go in and reflect, time to go in and share. You know, that would be something that I would embed on a very logistical space inside of that explanation for my students. Even in high school, I taught middle school, I've taught elementary, and I've taught most recently high school. And, you know, that kind of explanation and time embedded needs to be part of that process. But in this case, the apply piece, a lot of where we see the pieces where we're having students, you know, demonstrate their learning, that's where Spark is really powerful, where it really shines, because it allows students to create rich artifacts and to demonstrate their learning and to press record, and also to create like a space to be able to curate their work. And I'm going to show some examples of that right in just a moment. So when we think of a web portfolio, one of the tools that you might decide to use, I say in my toolbox, could be Adobe Spark, and Page is a great tool that is really simple to use, that lets students really pull their work together in a beautiful way. And I say beautiful because that matters. It does mean so much to students when they see that they put something together that actually looks good. And Spark is a tool that really empowers students to create beautiful work. So let me take you through some examples. Now, these examples are a bit more explicit, and they kind of lend themselves. You know, this one is more of a stereotype, right? When we talk about portfolios, often we think about art. But I show this example not simply because it's art, but because of the way that the student has been able to kind of like pull together their thinking and be able to show some of their growth. And it's a really interesting example. She was one of my students. Her name is Savannah. At the time, she's a freshman. She's actually going into her senior year, which is blowing my mind right now, because like I don't even know where those years have gone. But this is an example of her of a portfolio that she pulled together. And I'm going to ask you what you think, what kind of portfolio you think that this would be. So I'm going to start with, like, she added an introduction video.
People always tell me that I have an old soul and a creative mind, that I was born athletic and academic, but they don't see me practicing, studying, drawing. They don't see my sketchbooks. But I wouldn't be here without my friends, my team, or my family. Because we all start somewhere.
So she added a video to kind of introduce herself in her portfolio. Okay, and this is not a full portfolio. This is almost like a snippet. It's almost like a story for her, right? So she shared that, and she shares about herself as an artist, and more about her growth as just like, to give some insight about who she is, and shares those highlights. So where would you kind of place this in that kind of like showcase process, or like a hybrid piece? I'll give you a moment. So I see a lot of hybrid and a few process, showcase. So this is definitely more polished, I would say. It does show some process. So that's what I was saying. Like it's not always so clear cut. Like in this case, and this is not a full-fledged like stereotypical portfolio, by the way. I'm going to show you some other examples of that. But this is kind of a snapshot. So I would almost say that it's probably closer to a showcase than I would say than a hybrid or a process, but we could argue about that. I mean, she does reflect on herself as a learner, but she's not necessarily using this as space to get feedback and to grow. She's really just kind of showing her growth and kind of like showcasing that for everyone to kind of see that. This is something that a student might actually use to like create their college applications and put into like a common app as part of their, not necessarily this, but like this kind of storytelling attached to their college application with their essay. I've had students do that, where they're kind of taking a snapshot of themselves as a learner and showcasing that and sharing those pieces. This is another example of one of my students, and in this case, she is a film study student, and so she shares a little bit about her, but she's not necessarily sharing her growth. She's really, in this case, just sharing her work. And again, this is like more of a stereotypical space where she's sharing about her future, about some of her work, and she was sharing some of her videos like that she's created. She's actually a really good filmmaker. Like, she was a freshman. And so as a filmmaker, this is something that she would curate and pull together as a portfolio piece when she applies to film school, right? So these are more of your like stereotypical things that you'll see happen often in schools where like there's this kind of showcase of your work. But I'm going to walk you through another example, and this is actually one that is a little bit less of a showcase. And this is an example, and again, I know this is more arts-based, but just keep an open mind because I want you to see it for what it is. And this is a really good example of a hybrid portfolio, which really, really is a space where students are learning. So this particular student, this was a remote, this was a class taught during the height of the pandemic. And so it was completely taught remotely. So you can't hear her well because the sound is just absolutely awful.
By far, the best work that I've done this summer is a flower drawing I made in Adobe. I think this is one of my best work because I put a lot of details on it and shading to make it a realistic look. The piece that I am definitely most proud of is this one, which is a portrait of.
So she goes through the different pieces and has reflection questions that she's answering so that she can explain her herself as a learner. And this is a much better example of like that process piece where we're gaining rich insight and of learning and growth. And then you can sort of see she's kind of pulled those pieces together. The teacher had her taking pictures of, and that was explicitly, told to the student, I want you to take pictures as you're building out your learning. Now, I do have a science example because I was like, this is art, and it seems like, oh, it's art. It's very straightforward. It's visual, but this could be done with writing, having students be able to take snapshots of revisions and be able to talk about the feedback they received and how they received that feedback and how they improved that. This could be done with science when students are building out experiments where they're taking pictures of the different stages in their process and explain, and I'm going to show you a science example soon of how they got from point A to point B. This lends itself so well if you teach a class that's non-traditional, like in a makerspace. If you've ever taught in one of those environments, like how are students showing their learning? It's like so messy. There's so much going on. They take pictures and they're able to pull pieces together and explain their growth. So these are some of those examples, but you see this is a Spark page and it looks nice. Like it's super straightforward to pull together, but you know what? The students pull their work into here. They take pictures of analog work. They pull in their digital artifacts, they're adding reflections, they're showing that learning unfold, and they're able to articulate on that. I love this, even the way she uses some of the formatting. So she takes the picture of the original and then shows the different stages. I think that's so brilliant. So these are some of the ways that I've seen portfolios unfold and in really powerful ways, and having student reflection pieces. So for her, this is such a great assessment piece as a teacher. This is my friend Sherry who taught this class, because she had all evidence of growth. Even though she wasn't there physically to see it unfold, she was able to have students document all those different pieces and be able to turn this in as their final piece of work to show the growth they made as learners. And that's all we can really ask from our kids, right? This is so powerful to be able to see their work and growth unfold, and to also understand what they got out of the lessons that you taught. So you can really see she taught a lot, and it unfolds in this process. It's very visible for us to see what she was teaching the students. All right, so we're actually going to do a little activity together right now, you and me, all of us. And I'm going to hand over in just a second a slide deck, and I'm going to open it right now so that I can kind of walk you through it before I put it in the chat. So I'm just going over here. Okay, and copy. There we go. So in just a second, I'm going to give you this doc. It's going to force a copy. if you're not familiar with how to do that, let me show you really quickly. Are you guys familiar with how to force a Google Doc? Okay, you guys all know. Okay, in case you don't, you hack it right here. You just pull that last little part off, or it's usually it'll say edit and like, or it might be longer. You just replace it with copy, and then it forces your students to make a copy. So just in case, I don't want to assume everybody knows that because it's such a great hack. You got to know that one. All right, so I'm going to give you a forced copy. All right, and you're gonna open this up in just a second. And what I'm gonna be doing with you is I'm gonna ask you to brainstorm, your name, what you teach, and a few big moments of learning in your class. So, for example, okay, and I have some examples ready to go. So let's say I teach. Hello, my name is Tanya. I don't teach fourth grade, but let's say that was it. I teach fourth grade science and engineering. So our learning goal is to understand the process and effects of erosion, all right? And then you will describe an artifact that they might generate. So my students can create a drawing that shows the types of weathering, and they can find a place in the neighborhood that has erosion and identify the type of erosion and design the structure in Legos that resist erosion on an erosion table. So that could be something that you would have students create, that might be that you would document, that you would essentially ask students to be able to show and put into your portfolio to show their growth. So I'm going to ask you guys to think about those. Like, what are some big learning goals that you might have students working on in your class? And what might be some of the things that you would ask them to, what, like the artifacts they might generate that they could show? Because those are the things that you would ultimately have students document, reflect on, and put in their portfolios. And I'm going to hand that over to you in just a second. But as I do, right before I do, I just wanted to show you this just to kind of have you understand a little bit more the process that we think of as teachers when we're having students pull together a portfolio. So the points of capture are really powerful, right? So we're asking, our students to really always be able to start with the end in mind and to have an understanding of what their learning objective is. So this is really helpful when it's in the student's own words, because then they're able to articulate what that is. They understand it. If they can't articulate it, then they don't even know what it is that they're learning when we're asking of them. Then in students' own words, we're asking them what they discovered during their learning experience. So this is like what we're asking them to do in the portfolio, right? We were asking them to share some of the artifacts that demonstrate what they did. So this could be screenshots, it could be videos of progress. If we get to that point, this is really masterful when we ask students to then have time to share it with others and get feedback, and then revise their work. That's really powerful. So we ask them to do that and be able to share that feedback inside their portfolio. So they show what they did. Then they were able to show, well, this is how I changed it. This was the feedback I received. And then ultimately the outcome of the revisions they made, that final work, right? Here's where I was, this is where I am. And then they share a reflection of the learning experience. And this could be a summary of the original content, but, kind of pulling together, this is how I got from point A to point B. So this is actually a really great, I think, simplification of that process. And I'm going to share this little slide deck with you right now inside the chat. And I'm going to ask for you guys to fill out the first slide. And when you're done, just to take a screenshot of that slide, because I have a Padlet that I'm going to ask you to share your thinking so that we can look at each other's and get ideas and maybe learn from each other with some ideas or strategies that we might have not even thought about if we teach some of the same subjects or just in general. So I'm going to ask you to do that. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask me. I'll give you like about 10 minutes to kind of go through that and think through some of that thinking that you might, use for next year, or something that maybe you would have done that you might want to do differently for the following school year. Okay. So I'm just sharing that in the chat. And let me know if you have any questions. One of the other examples that I have here is let's say I teach 7th grade literature. Our learning goal is to craft persuasive essays. So they read 4 persuasive essays, and then they do an analysis of all of them. They draw out the structure of a persuasive essay, and they write their own original persuasive essay. So that would be an example of like a literature example. Were you able to make a copy? Just give me like a little thumbs up. Okay. Phew. So you're going to take a screenshot of this slide of like when you're done, the 3 pieces, like the 3 examples, like the 3 learning goals, and maybe 3 ideas that you have students using, like creating some kind of artifact. You're going to share that, and I'm going to give you the Padlet right now to share it on. Feel free to private chat me if you have any questions, if you don't want to put them in the big chat. Okay, so when you're taking a screenshot, depending on the device you're on, I'm not really sure. I might need help. Are you guys on a Chromebook? No? Like a desk, okay, so if you're using a Mac, I know the Mac because I have one. It's Command Control Shift 4. So I'll write that down. So Alexandra said that she's using the snipping tool to make a screenshot. And Kayla says you can download a JPEG of the slide. Let's see that. Maybe that's just going to be the easiest way to do it for everybody. It's one way. Oops. File. There we go. Good job. So you would just go to File, Download, JPEG of current slide. Okay. Thank you so much. Who said that? Kayla, you're the best. Thank you so much. I'm going to open up the Padlet so we can see them coming in. Oh, oops. Oh, wonderful. I see Meredith, you started turning yours in. Oh, wonderful. Okay. These are great. It's cool to see what other people are writing. Oh, these are great. Love it. Meredith, it looks perfect. It's good. You were sharing a good example too of like how students are creating. So you want to be thinking about ways that when you're talking about the artifact, you want to be thinking about what students create to demonstrate that goal, right? Because they have to be able to show what they know. That's the piece that I think is really powerful, is what can they make to demonstrate that learning objective that you would have them be able to share in that portfolio. Because ultimately, a portfolio is only as good as what we have kids creating. Oh, I love that, Amy. So sun, moon, earth relationship. Students will create models of the sun, moon, and earth, and will model revolution rotation and create a video of it. So they'll take a recording and they'll explain the process. It's perfect. So it's a great example because it's a really great example of using like analog, like something that could be, you know, like something that you've done for a long, long time. And it's still a tried and true activity, like having kids physically create something. There's nothing wrong with that. But then be able to record that and have them explain their thought process, that's taking it to the next level. It's adding that element of voice and being able to articulate their understanding. And it gives much more insight in terms of where they are in their thinking journey. So I like that because it's a good example of blending analog and a more traditional kind of like approach. And there's nothing wrong with that. And not everything has to always be created digitally. I'm not a believer of that. I think that there's so many great activities that you could do, but having kids be able to document that and share their learning and have them be able to articulate that is really powerful as well. So it's a nice combination of the both. Good job. So this is great. So they're learning about communities and they'll generate a page or a slide where they're doing research and sharing that research. Maybe one step further could be they take a screencast of their work and explain their thinking, or they can put it in the page and in a reflection explain their thought process. But it's that explanation piece that I think is really, really powerful. Wonderful. Oh, look how great these are. You guys are great. Have a look at each other's. I think it's really interesting to see some of the ideas that people are coming up with as well. Oh, who needs? Awesome. Yeah, this is great. Wonderful. You guys, this is great. It's nice to be able to kind of reflect on some of the stuff that you're probably doing. You're like, yeah, I was already doing that. Or maybe it's like, I'm going to do this next year. This is fantastic. Oh, I see. So using Adobe Spark. Okay. Shannon. Wonderful. 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 So it's great because I'm seeing a lot of the things that you're doing. And like I start looking at those and I think, okay, here's some tweaks, right? We, just having kids be able to use Screencastify. Have you guys ever used it? Give me a thumbs up if you've ever used it. Cool, right? Just that, having students be able to explain their thinking, pull that into a video. That's really powerful. If you've used, and I'm going to show you Spark video in just a second, but like having them be able to pull and showcase some of those pieces of things that they're working on, that's really powerful. So let me show you an example. I'm going to give you guys just a few more minutes. I can't tell if you're done. Are you guys done? Do you need a little more time? A little more time. Okay, I'll wait a couple more minutes. I like this. So Kristen Smith. Compare an element and a compound. Students create a Powtoon video describing the properties of each. So they're showing what they know. I love that. Speed. Students create a video describing how to calculate density. Wonderful. And thermal energy. Students create a slide presentation that describes the 3 types of thermal and transfer, then screencast their explanation. These are great examples. I really like these. I also like them a lot because very often we don't think of science and math, as places where students can really get creative, and they can be really creative spaces. And these would be great in a portfolio to demonstrate those artifacts, those learning objectives. Wonderful. These are great, guys. Cynthia. Wonderful. So if you're on the page, one of the things that I've added on those slides underneath is like a breakdown of points to capture, but then where those points might, like what that could look like in a Spark page, just to simplify this. So if you were going to do this with your students and you were going to ask them to do those 3 learning objectives, right, that we just spoke about, and those 3 projects. So now you have some very tactile ideas sitting in your brain of something that applies to your classroom. I want us to think about what that could look like on a page. I'm actually going to show an example, and then I'm going to walk you through a demo of how you would do it, how you could create one. So that way, when you're leaving today, you're not only leaving with some ideas, but you're also leaving with some tools to get started in the new school year. Oh, you don't have to, you would not have to download the Padlet. Here, let me just share that link. You just need there's a little plus button, and I can show you it here. I'll walk you through it here. This is so in Padlet, you just need to go on to Padlet. So that link I just gave you should, oops. I think it's going, it's so funny. I put the Padlet and then it went to the last person who DM'd me. Sorry. So there it is. So I just shared it out again. Okay. So when you go into a Padlet on the bottom right corner, you're just going to go on the plus button and you literally are just going to upload your image. So you're just going to pick that because you should have downloaded it as a JPEG where it's a download JPEG current slide. I didn't even know you could do that. So thank you. That was a great tip. Okay, you're welcome. And then you'll just add that up. So I hope that you looked at each other's, kind of had some time to kind of see what are other people writing. It's interesting to see, you know, what some people might already be doing, right? Or maybe you're getting some ideas and you're thinking about the way that you would structure some of those ideas, maybe perhaps a little differently, so that there's opportunities for students to make their thinking visible, right? Hear from each learner, that agency piece, like having students be able to choose a tool to demonstrate their learning. That's part of student voice as well. Agency is a big part of that. Or a tool that means something to a student. Not every learner is a writer, but maybe they can articulate their learning with a video better, right? I know a lot of, I've worked with a lot of students who have dyslexia or dysgraphia. When you ask kids just to always write, that is incredibly painful for some students, especially if you're not evaluating writing, right? If you're looking for content and their understanding of content, they don't always have to write a response to show that they know something. That's very painful for kids who have learning needs, right? So thinking about how we're designing our instruction and their experiences for our learners so that there's opportunities when we're asking for those learning objectives for them to have alternative ways to demonstrate their learning. And that's where that kind of toolbox comes in, of these kind of infused tools that we can have kids use. So let me go back here for just a second. So, and I'm going to show you in just a second, but like when we're pulling a page together, you're going to have like, you know, the student's name, course, an intro to themselves. They're going to add their big learning goal. By the way, you can use this with your students if you wanted to scaffold, you know, that experience with them very simply, like, here are the things I want you to put in your portfolio. So objective in their own words, discoveries, artifacts of the process, feedback, final product, reflection. And these could be written formats, it could be video, it could be, pictures. That's why I said it's not one size fits all. And then, ultimately they can add their next learning goal. And, you can have it as this kind of running space that they're just kind of pulling their work together. So this is an example we pulled together to kind of demonstrate that. And I've shared that with you as well in that slide deck. So simple machines. So we're learning about the potential and kinetic energy. And we were given the challenge to create a simple machine toy challenge. We first watched the video about Kane's Arcade. You can see it here. I love this too, because you can add media. The students can show what they researched. They can pull in, that's what's so nice about digital pieces, right? They can also kind of share where they're getting their information as well. Our objective was to create our own toy that uses the forces of energy and explain how we did it. Here is my toy story. Here is my toy story. So this is what it looked like. This is a picture of what it looked like. And then here is a reflection. Here is my reflection video.
Hi, my name is Yael, and in this video, I'm going to be explaining to you how I created the sling shooter and just taking you through my process. At first, my projects just started off as a plain simple pizza box, but then I had the idea of making a slingshot. So I first found these cereal clips that held my cereal boxes together, and I hot glue gunned them to make the perfect slingshot. After many ups and downs, I finally created the slingshot, but there was just one problem. I didn't know how I was going to place the ball and how I was going to make the elastics work. After many days of brainstorming, I finally created the perfect slingshot. I got hair elastics and cardboard and a metal piece so the ball would stay in place. When I pulled back the cardboard, the elastics would help throw the ball out to hit the hoops. After completing the slingshot and making it stable, I finally started cutting out the cardboard hoops so the balls could be thrown into them. After cutting out the cardboard and hot gluing everything, I finally drew the points onto the hoops, and the next video will be the final result. As you can see in the video, when I pull back the slingshot, I have elastic energy, and then when I throw it, I have mechanical energy because as it gets faster, the mechanical energy gets stored. After many weeks of brainstorming, I've gathered so many thoughts and I've learned so many things. One important thing that I've learned was to never give up, even when you're so frustrated, because at some points I did fail a lot and I got really frustrated and I wanted to quit. But then I thought that there's ideas out there for me and I just have to keep my mind open, and I finally achieved my goal.
So that's an example of kind of combining media, right? So this was super analog project. Okay. I mean, the student was asked to pull together cardboard boxes essentially, right, to design a toy. And I mean, how would you know as a teacher what their thought process was, right? Maybe they're going to make they'll reflect, but having the student explicitly like take pictures of that process and then kind of have some structure around how they're going to show that growth gives a lot more information to you as a teacher about, did they understand it? Where were their gaps? What are things they could have done differently? Did they follow the instructions? Did they understand the learning objective ultimately, which was like about, I think, I'm not the teacher, but it was about mechanical energy or whatever it was, motion. I can't remember. But, you know, when you watch the video and there's all these different elements in there, you can understand where that learning happened. And this was during pandemic. This was a project that was happening at home. If this wasn't recorded, you wouldn't know if she did it or her mom or dad did it, right? And that's kind of the reality of projects in general, right? For the most part, is like, how do you even know if kids are doing them? And when you give projects to kids, if they're the ones doing it or their parents are. And so this is a really important, like, for me as a teacher, I don't give any projects without having kids create these kinds of videos, because if they can't articulate their process and their learnings, they didn't do it. Right. And so that is like, you know, and that's why like people are always like, oh, how do you know? Because we know parents do most of their projects when you give them home, you know, not always parents, not every parent can, but that's you know, that's where a lot of times these projects aren't equitable in general, because then the kids who have that help at home get that help, and it's not fair for the kids who don't get that help. So this is kind of a nice, great equalizer so that you can really see that the student is the one that's doing the learning. So I love this, and this is a great little example. And then there was that reflection video. And then, you know, what advice would you give to other scientists doing this type of work? You know, I would suggest that you watch a lot of videos of other people's projects of simple machines. Also, I think it's a good idea to try a few things before you start with your final idea. Lastly, don't get paint on your mom's dining room table. Put down newspaper. So I love this. And this could be one project, you know, and then there could be another one that you're kind of curating. And that's why I said, you can use Spark, you can use Spark Video, you can use a variety of tools. So I had a good question here from one of you had written me a DM, and you wrote, I'm new to Spark. Can the portfolio be organized so that the space below the intro is like a menu where the viewer can click on the page? Okay, great question. With Spark, Spark is not meant to have menus. So if that's something that you were looking for, if you wanted it to be something that where you had all of them organized and structured that way, that wouldn't be what you would use with Spark. Spark might be where you pull one of the projects together, you showcase it, maybe you embed it into another space. Like Google Sites is really cool for that, because you can actually embed a Spark page inside of it, and it scrolls and it looks really beautiful, and it embeds. So like you're seeing all the work inside of it. So that could be a place where you're kind of pulling that. That's why I said there's a lot of different ways to do things. You have to decide, you know, what would work and what would be easiest for your students as well. So it really depends on what you're trying to do. But right now, what I'd love to do is kind of, first of all, do you have any questions up to now? So you guys have free versions to Spark. So I just got a question, is this the paid version? No, everybody at Klein, all the students, including you, so first of all, Spark's always free, but there's upgrades that, there's commercial accounts that, and then there's people that pay for upgrades, but the district, so Klein ISD has licenses that are equivalent to having all the paid features of Spark. So you have Spark 100% and all the features on Spark, and so do your students, and it's COPA and FERPA compliant, and they log in with their district IDs. And I don't know if you have like a portal for students to go in to access. Good questions. Okay, how do we get the free version? Okay, who's here from Klein? Because I would rather, okay. Well, I mean, from the district or someone who, perfect. So because I'm getting the question, how do you access Spark? And I don't want to give the wrong information. So if one of you from the team.
Can y'all hear me?
Hi, Karen.
Okay, hi. Yes, it's on the dashboard, so the kids can access it through the dashboard on the Klein dashboard. I also wanted to say, because I see a lot of questions, we do have a class going on right now that you can sign up for in Eduphoria that is all about Adobe Spark and how to use it. It's called, I think, no, it went right out of my head, the name of it, but Sparking Creativity, I think is the name of it. But anyway, we have that going on through the June 20th or something like that. So that's another option that they have if they want to look into how to do all the things with Adobe Spark.
And I'm gonna do a demo with you guys now. So okay. that was on the agenda for today. So I'm gonna actually walk you through like how to create a page, how to create a video. The nice thing, the reason that I love Spark so much, truthfully, if you've never used it, is actually just, I don't have to spend much time going over it. It's really, really easy to use. And so that's the nice piece about it, is that you don't have to worry about the tool. It was actually made so that like if a kid can use TikTok or Snapchat, they can use Spark. It's very intuitive. It was designed to be an incredibly intuitive tool, intentionally. That was what it was made to be. So I'll walk you through it, but the students will figure it out, and they will figure it out fast because it's definitely very straightforward to use. I'm just trying to see if there's any other questions that I can answer before doing the demo. These are great questions. Yes, I'm going to share resources and a follow-up email with Karen and Megan. I like to do that. I've noticed just over the last years, when I start dumping a lot of things in the chat, things get lost. I find it to be much easier to just share my resources in an email that can be sent out after the fact. So I will be sending out, and also I don't pre-do email resource packages because I differentiate them based on the feedback and the needs of my group. And so that's just what I've learned over the years. So, if you're looking for certain things, let me know. And then what I do is I curate a collection of resources that then I'm going to send back to Karen and Megan for them to send out to you. Okay. So please just dump in the chat, anything you would like, and I will get that to you. Wonderful. All right, so I'm going to, so I showed you that video portfolio of Yael's machine, simple machine. And And I'm actually going to walk you through now a demo. So that's kind of where we are. I'm going to kind of walk you through Spark Video and Spark Page. I'm not going to get into Post. Post, one of my favorite, but for this particular, you know, workshop, I'm not going to get into Post this time, but I will be sending you a follow-up little like video that walks you through it. So don't worry about that. It's really fun. Okay, so I'm going to go into Spark. And if you have two screens and you want to go crazy with me, feel free to follow along. It might be a little more challenging to flip, but I'm, you know, if you want to play, that's cool. It's really straightforward. I can kind of walk you through it and give you some time to play as well. So, oh, nice. So this is actually a community account that I share with some of our designers, and I see some stuff they're creating. I'm so excited. So all these things, we have our event coming up this summer. I'm going to put a little plug. We have a summer summit coming up on June 27th and 28th and 29th, and we're hosting it with HyperDocs. Like with the team that created HyperDocs, Lisa Heifel, Sarah Landis, and Kelly Hilton. And so we're just, we just asked them to put together a bunch of assets. I'm super excited because I see them coming up. So be on the lookout. I'm going to give you the thing if you want to register. It's going to be a great event. Okay. So when you're in Spark, you're going to go, you're going to log in. This is your dashboard. And then on the left corner, there's a little plus button. And, oh, I sounded so, I'm Canadian, by the way. So you just heard my little Canadian accent pop up. So you're going to go here, and there's two things you can do. Well, there's three essentially, right? You can create graphics, videos, or a web page. So you know what? I'll start with a web page since we're talking about page from the perspective of portfolios. And it's going to open up, and I'm going to go here. I'm going to give it a name. So Tanya's Learning. Okay. And I can go here, photo. I can upload a photo. So if I have a photo of something that I wanted to put in, I could. Or what's really great about Spark in general is that the free photos are beautiful. So when students are creating work, they have a bank that they can pull from of very high quality, Creative Commons, free to use and share images. So their work looks nice because they can add little assets to it and kind of add more context. By the way, if you teach like any kind of writing or research course, I didn't talk about this from that perspective because I was super focused on portfolios, but this is a great tool to take writing into like, you know, 2020 and beyond. Like it allows students to pull their writing and add rich like imagery, add context, really publish their work in a visually compelling way. They love doing this, pulling together poetry anthologies. Like this is such a great tool for that. Okay, so I'm gonna go here and I'm just gonna go in and I'm just gonna put school because I don't know, I'm like Tanya's Learnings. And learning from, you know, books. I don't know, whatever. So there's my first page. And then I'm going to scroll here and I'm going to add some text and I'm going to say, welcome to my portfolio. And I'm going to scroll over it and I'm going to make it a bit bigger, or I'm going to make it smaller. So in this case, make it bigger. And I'm going to center it. So see how straightforward it is. And then right now I'm on this old Spark theme. I'm going to just change that right now. I'm going to choose a different theme. So there's some pre-created ones. You see, you can easily change themes like straight there. So I'll keep it. I don't know. I feel like kids would like whimsy. Let's do something a little more whimsical. All right. So welcome to my portfolio. And then as I scroll, it gives me my options. It's really intuitive. Okay, so students just scroll up and they can add their elements. So you can add photos. And again, I can find free photos. I can pull in photos. If I create a photo inside of Spark Posts, so the graphic piece, I can pull those photos by downloading them and uploading them. Okay, So I don't know, guys, this is not going to be perfect. So, because I just want to show you how it works, but I can make it full screen. I can make it full length. I can make it into like a window. I like windows because it helps kind of separate topics. So I'll use that sometimes for students to kind of like, as they're scrolling, to separate their topics. So welcome to my portfolio. And then here, maybe I'm going to add, and if I wanted to, I could add a caption. You don't have to. If you leave it empty, when you publish it, it'll just be empty. So then I'm going to say, my learning goals for this semester are, okay, so maybe I'm going to, number my learning goals. Okay. So I'm not going to do it right now because I'm on the spot, but you get the gist of it. And I can add buttons. And so those buttons can connect to other artifacts. So if I wanted to link to a piece of writing from another place, if I wanted to link to a collection, if I wanted to link to something else, I can, also link my work. I could add photo grids. So I can kind of like showcase my work in different ways. Okay. I can also create a glide show. I love glide shows. So when you like, I get super creative with Paige because one of the things that I've done with students is to separate their work. I'll have them use a glide show for each project. So it looks really beautiful because when you have a glide show, let me just show you really quickly. So I have one image for the back, and then in the front, I'll say like simple. I don't know why I'm doing this because it's right here. So simple machines. Okay, and then I can add photos. So let's just pretend. Let's just pretend that, these were my photos of my simple machines. Okay. I can go there and I can also, like the way I have her video embedded. I don't have the link on me right this second, just because I don't have it right here. But I could go here and I can add my videos. So you can add videos, a link from YouTube, Vimeo, or Spark. And I'm going to show you Spark in just a second, because in Spark, when you create a video, you can publish the link. And when you grab that link, and I'll show you in a moment, when I grab that link, I paste it in here. When it's published, the published link that I get from the video, it will embed right in here. So that's really nice. So students don't have to publish their videos on anything else but within the app. So that's really nice. So I could, have them share their video and so on and so forth. So I did this really fast. There's not much content in it, but just to show you, I would go to present. So look how pretty it looks when I'm in present mode. So they're presenting and pulling together their work. And again, I didn't put much, obviously there's not much in here. This is a glide show. But just in the 4 seconds that I pulled this together, even without much content, it looks good. And that's why kids really like this, because their work shines, it looks beautiful, and it doesn't take long to pull together like pieces that really look nice to show. And so, using this for showcases really makes sense, because if you wanted to use something else for process and then use this for kids to pull their best pieces and share them, it's really, really beautiful. So when you're ready to publish, you would just go to share and you would go create link, and it'll generate a link. And then that's the link that they would either, share on Schoology, share in a Wakelet collection, share in a Padlet with a class. I love students sharing their work, again, like outside of just Schoology, where maybe if you're using a space where they could comment, where they have to share and like add comments, that's really powerful. So is there a QR code that they can create that would take them to their page? So not inherently in the app, but they should do that. That's really good idea. I know, right? It's a good idea. I'm going to tell them. I know that seems so simple and like sharing, but no. So you would just go to like a QR code generator and QR code it, but they should have that. That would make it so much better. I agree. I will let them know. So that's that. As a teacher, you can also share it straight to your Google Classroom if that was like an assignment, or if you wanted to share the, oh no, you don't use, I don't know why I keep on thinking you guys use Classroom. So that's Page. It's pretty straightforward, right? Like not overly complicated. There's not much more to it. It's like you can make the different layouts, you can add that. I showed you themes. I'm not going to get into it right now, but you could create your own brands. So like, it's really awesome. So if you have if you're a library specialist and you are, have like a logo for your library, like you could put your logo and have like all your work branded. You could do like, if as a teacher, you could be like, the Hawks, or I don't know if you guys have like a name for your class, or like room 203, but like you can make or have the kids create a little logo, and like you could have that. The nice thing about Spark is it's like super great for social. And I don't know if you guys are like, if you share things with on Twitter for your class, or like you have an Instagram for your class, but it just side note, and this is not portfolio based, but I just have to tell you, like, there's all the, like if you, and I'm not getting into it right now just because we don't have a lot of time, but like the custom graphic piece, just, okay, I can't help myself. It has like, popular, it has like all the social sizes. It has templates, so you can like really go crazy. And I'm not getting into it right this minute because I could probably do like 2 hours just on this, but it has everything you need for like social. But what's also great, and I'm going to show you just now, is the videos. So like the way I was saying, like kids can create their videos to kind of showcase their learning. Well, as a teacher, like you can have students create little snippets of what's going on in the class for the week, and you can share that out with parents. And that's really cool and exciting. And as a parent, I feel like I would cry if I got that. Like I've never had that. Like it would be so awesome to get like a little video from the students and have like the students be video producers, be like, this is what we learned this week. And they make like a little video. I love it. My son's in grade 5. I've never seen him bring that home, but it would have been cool. So like you can go video, but it's also great for the kids because then they're like, they have to break down what they worked on this week. Like, what did you learn? So this could be like my video, by the way, and you can use these for book report. I mean, there's like a million other things you could do with video, but I'm just looking at it through the lens of portfolios. So my learning journey, journey. Okay. So video, if you're not familiar with video, video is awesome. Okay. So first of all, the first thing that happens with video when you pop on and you add your title is it takes you to these story templates. These are fantastic. If you have not used them, they're amazing. If you teach any learner, honestly, forget, I mean, especially like kids who need scaffolding, English language learners, this is so great because it has built in some scaffolding to get them going. So you can either start with promote an idea, tell what happened, a hero's journey, show and tell, personal growth. I mean, hello, for like a learning portfolio, like personal growth, teach a lesson. Another really great one to get kids doing to show that they know something, they'd have to teach it to someone else. It's so great. And then an invitation or make up my own. Okay, so let's say I do whatever. I'll just do personal growth just to kind of show you what it looks like. I go there. It's just taking a second. It's going to load. It always has this little video tutorial that pops up as if it wasn't easy enough. There's always a video that pops up. And inside of it, it looks like this. So this is, I created it through a template. You could start from scratch and just add plus, and that would be that as well. But like, just to kind of show you, so backdrop, what I was doing, challenge, guys, like, right? Struggle, realization, what happened, lesson I learned. Portfolio, It's like exactly what we were just talking about. So they can pull together a little video kind of talking through their thinking of just that. And then it says, describe the setting, when and where it happened, bring your audience up. So you might want to like help them scaffold some of the words around that, like, but that's easy stuff, right? And then they can go in, they can add video. So you can add up to 30 seconds of video per slide. And you can record audio on each slide for 30 seconds. I try to teach kids not to do that. It's really boring to sit on the same slide for 30 seconds, right? Like we need to teach kids that, you know, they don't want to talk too much, but so they can add, you know, little snippets of video. I'm not going to get into the video. They can add text. So my learning, like semester 2, whatever. Okay. I can add a photo behind it and the photo can be pulled. I can take a photo onto my Chromebook. You can just snap a photo. You can upload a photo or you can find free photos. Also, it connects to Google Drive and Google Photos. So if it's something on their drive, they can access it there as well. So I'm going to find free photos. Again, teach. I don't know. I'm just thinking really quickly. So my learning, semester 2, and what I was doing. So you kind of get the gist of it. I can add icons. I can add, but this is the best part, is this little red button, because that lets me record my voice, press record, and make my thinking visible. So there are so many things I could talk about with my learning this year. I don't even know where to begin. All right, so I could, you know, go in slide by slide. So it's really nice because it helps scaffold each piece so that they're pulling together their work. It has that kind of like foundation, because their work looks really nice because they've been given some creative constraints to work around, right? It also, you know, those guardrails are really powerful for kids who are also learning how to design and how to create video, because very often, like if you don't have those skills, your stuff literally looks like garbage, like, and you know it, right? Like it just, if we don't teach some foundations around like, you know, how long things should be, what images we should be using, the kinds of images, animations, like what ends up happening is we put up too many things and then their work doesn't look good. And so this is a great tool also to teach kids how to create work that looks nice. They can change the screen, so they can make it a split screen. They can add caption, title, and text. So these are, but there's not many options is what I'm trying to say. It's very limited. That's why I said it's not complicated. It's not meant to be a really robust editing video tool. If people want more robust, you know, Adobe has Premiere Pro, Premiere Rush. I mean, like there's other tools that serve that purpose. This is meant to be a very quick space for kids to be able to share video / visual stories. So adding imagery, talking over imagery, more of like a multimedia tool for taking stagnant images and adding context to them. But it really is a great one for social media as well, because you can also go here, you can resize. So this is for Instagram, right? It's optimized for videos on, you know, inside of not necessarily a story, but on an actual Instagram post, or you can keep it widescreen. You can change the theme. And so it has some pretty nice themes that I can modify and change a few elements to. And so these are some of the themes. And then I can also add music. I could add my own if I was creating something on something like Soundtrap, or even if I was app smashing with GarageBand, right? So I can create music elsewhere, or I can use some of their Creative Commons free to use and share music. Again, such a great strategy for kids to learn about like mood, tone, like adding the right sounds. And, you know, like that's really powerful for their learning. And so I can go here and I'm just going to do like Wandering Guitar. This is more thematic. I'm obviously I didn't spend much time on this, but just really quickly. There are so many things I could talk about with my learning this year. I don't even know where to begin. Yeah, so it's blank. I don't even know where to begin. So, but just to kind of show you, like, it's really, really easy to use. And if you notice, I have my Spark for Education here. That's because I'm using, again, my brand. So you can create your own brand, as I mentioned, and then add. So for example, here's like ACE. So I was just gonna fix that. And it'll add like your logo. I don't know, it's being finicky right now. It's not liking me. There it is. Okay, great. So Adobe Creative Educator, and it'll change that theme as well. So I'm going to go here and I'm actually going to just change the theme altogether. I'm going to use the light theme. I don't like the pink. There it is. So yeah, so I mean, these are all like very straightforward. And then when I'm ready, I could download it. Oops, I don't want to download it right now. Or I can publish it. I can also send it to Google Drive as well if I wanted to. So if if that was a workflow you use, so I can generate the link, and that's the link I was telling you that I would copy and paste into the video. So it's nice because the tools really lend themselves. They look good. They're easy to use, and your students have access to them for free. So that's like really nice, like in this really great creativity suite, and they're learning these great tools to be not just creative, but creators, like learning how to create, because the tools look beautiful. And so you can teach them about design and how to design and aesthetics through using these. Awesome. So I see some great comments here. So many possibilities with Adobe Spark. I love this for all students and easy to do. Yes, totally. And then, combining that with getting kids creating, getting them to make beautiful artifacts, pulling those artifacts into that portfolio where they're able to articulate growth. I love this. This is such a great way of assessing student learning. And it's such a great alternative to like a multiple choice assessment, which really doesn't always provide us with all the rich information about student learning that we'd love to be able to see. It's almost like that necessary evil that you have to learn how to do them sometimes. But it's like, okay, when we don't have to do that, like how can we really create meaningful artifacts for kids? And these are such great examples of that. So I wanted to go back. I want to make sure I have some time for some Q&A and to also, some reflection time. So I would love for you in the chat, this is my kind of go-to reflection question, but like, how could this amplify learning in your classroom? So if you could maybe reflect that, maybe share an idea. What's one thing maybe that you might want to use this for in the new school year? That would be really great. I'll give you a second and share some of your thoughts. How might this amplify learning for you, for your students? I know you're tired, guys. I'm so sorry. It's like, I feel like I want to cry for you. It's the end of the school year, but we're almost there. Hopefully this was helpful. Awesome. So see, open house. I love how students will be engaged and be able to make ownership of their learning goals. It will be great to see them at beginning of year to end of year growth. I love that. It is so cool when you see them create work and then you're able to see their growth. It is mind blowing. I've done this. Like I've done portfolios with students for years. So it really is cool to see that. I teach the farm tech practicum. Cool. My students can do videos and associating various customers for peer feedback. That's amazing. Because I'm moving fifth grade, I believe to help them get prepared for intermediate. That is so true. Fifth graders do love this. And for intermediate, where they will do most of their work online. Yeah, absolutely. Hispanic artist projects, Hispanic World Heritage. Oh, yes. Oh my God, that'll be so great for that. A place to store their writing and see their growth. This would be great. Learning task project to meet the requirements of new client prep framework. I could utilize this student learning growth portfolios. I love it, guys. This is so great. Student ownership, weekly reflection, goal setting plans. Oh, yay, awesome. Art portfolio. Oh, good. If you were coming for art, you were really like, this really lends itself like so beautifully for art teachers, especially, but others as well. Awesome. Love that it allows the students to be producers of the product. This will be a great research tool. I can see GT students using this for their end of year project. I like you can have the students record and explain the project. Totally. Great. I'm so glad you guys got some ideas and strategies and thoughts, and that I was able to show you something that is easy to use, free, available, and actually is fun for kids. Like that they actually like to use. That's why I have the best job in the world. I would not be able to do this if I didn't feel like this is a great tool for kids to help them show their learning. Thank you guys. I'm going to also, as I mentioned, leave you guys, and I'll be sharing this with the team at Klein. But I have some lessons that I have curated, just 3 to help you get started. One is called Got Spark, Now What? It's one that I designed. I love this lesson. It's a hyperdoc that walks students through creating a logo, creating an About Me video, and a digital portfolio on a page, like pulling the 3 pieces together. And then it gets the students to create their brands. So it's a great place to start portfolios at the beginning of the year, at least also as a scaffold for you, because it teaches the kids how to create a logo, how to make a beautiful video. Like it shows exemplars. So when you go through, you'll see it's a hyperdoc model. It's a great lesson. I love it. I'm going to send that to you. And I also found 2 more digital portfolios with Adobe Spark, and make a portfolio using Adobe Spark page that my colleague in the UK who has the same job as me also had created. So there's 3 kind of beginner getting started lesson projects for portfolios specifically. I am doing another session in the next round where I'm actually going to be walking participants through our education exchange. We have this amazing resource that people have no idea about. And last year we hired, his name is Brian Johnsford. He was actually the content strategist at Khan Academy for 6 years. And he joined our team last year. And so he's been revamping all of our curriculum. So it's brilliant. And so I was going to walk people through how to leverage these curriculum tools. They're all lessons and projects like ready to go, pre-packaged, like done. And sometimes that makes me want to throw up in my mouth, the idea of like telling teachers to use pre-packaged stuff. It's not like that at all. It's like super creative, like really great projects that are really great for students. So I'm completely free. So I'm going to walk you through that. And of course we have our Adobe Creative Educator Level 1 program. And you can become an Adobe Creative Educator. It's a 1-hour self-paced course. It's completely free, and it's an amazing course. And you can go through your level 1 badge, and there's also a level 2 once you're done that. And then I have this awesome plug here. And as I mentioned, I am going to share all these great resources, but I'll actually just put that one in the chat. And if you would like to join our summer summit, it's going to be hosted with the Hyperdocs girls. It's really good. We have amazing speakers. You'll be in the next week or 2, if you're on social, you'll start seeing a lot more visuals and, a lot more about it, like on the airways, on the interwebs. But I know you're exhausted now. I don't blame you. And if you didn't want to come, that's fine. But if you register, you can also access the sessions after. So it might be worth just to kind of have the resources. But other than that, please let me know if you have any questions. Yes, digital resumes are great. And by the way, you can make paper resumes in Spark Post. There's actually templates and they're beautiful. But I've had students use this for their college apps. I've done it myself because I taught a class called Personal Branding and Digital Communication. And in the class, that was one of the things we had students do if they were juniors or seniors. They I work with the English teachers, and they would pull their college essays and then work with me to develop them into visual stories, which you can add as media if they're using the Common App application system. And it's very, very cool, and it helps kids stand out. So thank you guys. I will be sharing all my resources with you guys after, so be on the lookout for that. And thank you guys so much for coming. Thank you for the work you've done all year. I mean, you guys, you deserve, like, I don't understand how Academy Awards happen. It's like, we should have Academy Awards for teachers. Like, like, what do they do? But you guys all deserve awards this year, and thank you for coming. And I hope you walk away with something that you can use with your students next year. Thank you so much.
Tanya, thank you so much. It was a great presentation. We did record it, and we'll probably be sharing the link out with all the people who attended today. And also, if they have not registered for the afternoon, those links are still open for registration in Eduphoria if they want to look at coming back this afternoon. So thank you so much.
Thank you guys. And thanks for the warm feedback. That makes me feel nice. I always want to make sure that if I do something, it's meaningful for you. The worst thing that I feel like you can come to is like bad PD. And so I really hope that you were able to receive something that you felt was meaningful. And if not, please send me a message. Here's my email. Let me know if there's anything I can help you with. I'm here to serve, so if there's anything I can do to make your job better, I would love to be able to find a way to do that.